Gordon, this car is made up of millions of parts, but each one is absolutely stunning. So throttle pedal to start with. It's ridiculous. I mean, you know exactly how heavy it is.
It's a feather, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, that's titanium. And this bit is actually all machined from solid. It starts off as a titanium block and gets down to just a few grams.
I mean, and the assembly's on there, the mounting point, so it could be even lighter, but it's just beautiful. I mean,
that's the best bit about doing this car. It's the engineering art, you know. The team have had it instilled in them right from the beginning. It's not just about weight. It's actually about this has to be the best car of its type on the planet. It just has to be. Even the stuff that customers will never see, whether it's a windscreen wiper bracket or something that's buried inside the monocoque, the attention to detail is exactly the same.
There's not an ounce of fat on any of it. It's just exquisite.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the vision was always going to be the ultimate driver's car. And therefore, it had to be lighter and stiffer and just better. It's great having the vision and sticking to that vision, so you get the ultimate driver's car. But it is a sum of all these parts. And unless you have the team has the mental approach that every single part has to be like that, you don't hit the end bit, and then the vision disappears. You have to have all the detail engineering as well.
Tell me about Weight Watchers.
Yes. Yeah, we have every week, we have several teams on different parts of the car, and we track every single gram every week to make sure we're staying on target for the weight of the car.
So going back to analysis for a second, you said that the new analysis tool since you did the F1,
Yep.
that's allowed you to cut everything just even closer to the bone, as it were.
That's right. I mean, this is a really good example. This is just over 2 kilos. This starts off life as one big billet of high-strength aluminium alloy and ends up like this at 2.2 kilos. This holds the whole back end of the car together. So this joins one side of the monocoque to the other, and that takes all the torsion going through the car.
Look at this light. I mean, people are thinking, oh God, it's a light in a car. It's not that exciting, but it's a work of art again. What's the bronze bit in the middle?
So it's aluminium. It's anodized aluminium, but that's a heat sink. So this is the next generation of LED lamps, and they generate quite a lot of heat, and of course they're trapped in this cassette. So these slots at the front and these little slots at the top are for air recirculating, and there's a small fan like you get on the back of a computer, and that recirculates the air, and it runs across the heatsink, and that helps dissipate the heat. Now, normally people have that, the recirculation, of course, with these slots is underneath, so the air goes round and round. Normally people have that heatsink on the underside, and it takes the heat out of it. But actually, it's such a lovely mechanical thing, we decided to integrate it into the lamp unit. These are, by our own and benchmarking with the supplier we're working with, they reckon these are 15% better than any other car out there at the moment.
Wow. Let's have a look at this, the upright. Now, is this machined?
No, that's a forging. So normally on a high volume production car or a supercar, you would cast that out of, it's aluminium of course, but you would cast it. The problem with casting is that the casting process leaves the molecules in the material scattered randomly about the object. With forging, you get the metal, the raw metal, to a sort of a plastic state. You heat it up till it's a plastic state, and then you hammer forge it. So the stresses that this has got to see, this gets bent and twisted in cornering, braking, and traction. That's a rear upright. So it's trying to move that way, it's trying to move that way in cornering, and it gets twisted too from the toe-in loads. So it's got a lot to cope with. And the reason it's such a sort of organic shape is that's what the analysis tools have told us the shape has to be to resist all those different forces and loads. And the fact that it's forged is much lighter because the random molecule bit in a casting meant that all these elements would have to be a little bit thicker.
Weight Watchers wouldn't like that. Speaking of Weight Watchers, I know it's basic, We've seen all these beautiful things, but here's a bolt,
Yes.
but it's not.
That's really where a lot of the money's gone. So we got 900 fasteners, fixings on the car, studs, bolts, nuts, and they're all titanium. And they're not just normal titanium bolts. We've even machined the top out of this to save another gram or fraction of a gram.
But that adds up.
It all adds up. That's one of my sort of fetishes really with instruments. Every single car out there, including supercars, are all plastic instruments and backlit through the plastic. And I just think that looks cheap. No matter how well you do it, it looks cheap. So that is a metal face.
Looks like a
yeah, it's looked like a watch, exactly.
watch.
The needle is machined metal. And we wanted the graphics to look very simple, mechanical, and pure, easy to read. You know, I've always loved that simple mechanical thing. This car isn't about being flash; it's about being technical, and that, if anything, exemplifies that. I think it's that sort of design.
So when I'm rocking along in this car and I get to close to 12.1 and everything's singing away, how am I going to know when to change gear?
So we've got a very discreet, in this design, a very discreet series of lights within these little white squares, and they start lighting up as you approach the rev limit. So you get a little bit of warning. My only worry, and we won't know till we run the car for the first time, my only worry is, can this aluminium needle keep up with the speed of the revs? And we're not going to wind the spindle off. So this is floodlit, so it's a metal face and it's floodlit. So it looks, you know, it's quality again.
It's just beautiful. And then you're going to have either side of that on the dash, you have the speedo in a digital readout?
Yes, so we got the screen on either side. One is sort of infotainment and the other one is car info and aero info.
Gordon, I think this might be the hardest working component in the car, judging by the state of our roads nowadays.
Yep.
Beautiful dampers.
Yeah, I mean the car, as I said many times, I wanted the car to be British, and I wanted to find a British company that could produce a good damper, obviously, but also the quality, and these guys have been fantastic. They've hit our weight target, and they've been very, very good to work with, and as you can see, the quality is really Formula One standard. It's lovely.
It's the packaging, and as you said, they've met the weight target, but the packaging is stunning. You see bump and rebound adjustment.
Yeah. And the bright spring is because you can see this all through the rear screen of the engine cover. So you can see the suspension, so that's all on show actually.
Your little helper spring here.
Yep.
And the damping will be tuned throughout the development process.
Sure. And it's just passive damping. We haven't got any trick electronic adjustment because I've always found in the past, if you get the basics right in a car, that is, it's light enough, so you're not compensating for too much roll, and weight transfer, and you've got the geometry perfect and everything else, and the torsional rigidity. You don't need to resort to complicated interlinked suspension systems. That's when you've got a car that's too big or too heavy.
And these huge 25-inch wheels bouncing off the end of it.
Exactly,
and all the weight.
yeah. Unsprung weight is pretty good, really. Yeah.
Gordon, I cannot wait to see all these beautiful pieces bolted into XP1.
It won't be long now.